Welcome to Subramani. One question which I am being asked these days is should a multi asset fund be the core to my portfolio? And I'm talking about the Indian context. It could be an NRI or it could be a resident, and should it and can it be? So I think multi-asset fund is a very strong candidate for being the core portion of your portfolio, but whether it should be depends on a lot of things. It depends on your financial goals, your risk tolerance, risk taking ability, risk tolerance, risk capacity, need to take risk. All these three have to be in tandem, your investment horizon and overall portfolio strategy. So what a multi-asset fund has as its core holding is something which you should do research before you invest, because fund like a DSP fund can put 30% in equity, 35% in foreign equity, and the balance in debt and in gold. Similarly, there are other funds which can invest in REIT. There are investment funds which can invest abroad, but which is currently not investing because of RBI restriction. And then there are those who have very clear that they will put 65% in equity, 20% in debt and 15% in gold, right? They are very clear about it. Then there are those who within that 15 or 20% of commodity, somebody who has got 25% commodity allocation possible. I don't know whether they have done it or whether they will do it. So when you're investing in the multi-asset fund, find out what all does it do. Is it a high risk multi-asset fund or a low risk multi-asset fund, right? So find out, because international diversification, REIT, everything can be covered, and this reduces, what does it do? It reduces risk by spreading your exposure across perhaps some uncorrelated assets. Not always will it be uncorrelated, but assuming that it is going to be uncorrelated assets. Look at it in the Indian context. Equity will offer growth, debt will offer stability, and gold will offer some kind of a hedge between gold, equity, inflation, etc. It's some kind of a hedge. The worry with gold is it has given fantastic returns in the last 10-15 years, which makes even the last 50-year return, in at least in rupee terms, look not bad. But how will it be going ahead, going forward? We don't know. But there will be wars, there will be uncertainty, so there will be people buying gold and there will be people selling gold. Both will happen, but we don't know. I'm not commenting about any asset class. I'm just saying multi-asset fund has the advantage of professional asset allocation. They have a basis on which they will do the asset allocation. In fact, I think HDFC has a separate manager who will decide how much to go in equity, how much in debt and how much in metals. He takes that call. You will definitely, you will find a fund manager dynamically allocating between these funds, and that has zero tax implications for you. These are some of the advantages. By balancing high risk equity with good quality bonds and gold, definitely your returns will be less than a pure equity fund over a longish bull market. But over a flat bull market, you might actually end up outperforming equities, because equities perform badly, right? So it's possible. The other advantage of this is simplicity, right? So if you are a young couple or an old couple, let's say you're an older couple, you're 75 plus, it's easy to explain to your wife that you've got one multi-asset fund and that's it, you've got nothing else. So therefore that person, that becomes the core of your portfolio. But if you're a young person and you have not much of a risk tolerance, you have risk capacity, both husband and wife are earning well, but you don't have risk tolerance ability because your father told you not to put money in the share markets, that you will lose it and kind of thing. So let us say one or both of you have much lower risk tolerance, you have high risk capacity, then a multi-asset fund should be the core of your portfolio. It will give you poorer returns compared to a pure equity firm, but it will hold your blood pressure constant, because you will not see too much of standard deviation in your portfolio. After a few years of seeing how well your multi-asset fund has done well, and your multi-asset has done well because equities have done well, you can go and add some equity, maybe large cap, mid cap, flexi cap, whatever you can add, right? What I don't like about a multi-asset fund is the allocation to equity is not enough. So I would not put money in a multi-asset fund as my core, because my core, I mean 60-70% of my SIP amount going into it. I may want that as an equity fund. So depending on what you want, if you're young, maybe you're 24 years of age, you have high risk tolerance also, then there is no point in having a multi-asset fund. For you it makes no sense. For you it makes sense to put money in equity, and 20-25 years later, maybe at the age of 45, you say, okay, now I need to reduce my risk to my exposure to equity, so now you can go into a multi-asset. So sometimes it is not suitable, but largely it is suitable. Multi-asset funds could have a higher expense ratio than single asset funds, but do remember that your debt also gets taxed at equity rates because it's a multi-asset fund. Of course it can happen in the BAF also, but the risk is the risk is lower return, but it also means lower standard deviation. Also you have to find out how it is going to be taxed. If it is a fund which has got excessive debt, I mean it's invested a lot in debt instruments, you could get taxed like a debt fund or like a debt bank fixed deposit, which means you're going to pay tax on that at current rates, right? Not at a concessional rate of 12.5%, which is what you will pay in a equity fund or a multi-asset fund with a equity bias. Obviously, you can't compare across multi-asset funds. Don't compare Templeton multi-asset fund with HDFC multi-asset fund or a Templeton or a Kotak multi-asset fund or things like that. It is not fair because you don't know what is the composition. So ICICI Prudential multi-asset fund has done very well. HDFC Prudence, or now called Balance Fund, has done very well. In case of DSP, the multi-asset fund has foreign equity. So you have to look at all those things before you decide. But of course, if your desire is aggressive wealth creation because you're young, I think you should go more into equity. So for whom should it be core? For people with moderate risk profile, which means a 48-year-old man looking after his parents, looking after his growing up children. Children are still in school, college types. So for that person, shifting out of a total equity portfolio into a multi-asset makes sense. But think of the tax implications. Because of the tax implications itself, I balk at selling, but at 45-50 it makes sense to be in a multi-asset fund as the core. So it has to typically be a person with a moderate risk profile, not with a high risk profile. Many first time investors, if they have never invested in equity, better to start them through this for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then when they develop more confidence, this need not be the core. I mean, this can still be the core, but you can add some satellites like large cap funds and some diversification. You can add small cap funds or something like that. Retirement planning offers a balanced approach for long-term goals like retirement. So for retirees, or rather for people who are now in their 30s and 40s and want to use this as a retirement fund, I think it's a great idea. You will pay tax only when you withdraw. So right now you're in an accumulation mode. So that makes sense to keep putting money into this fund and start withdrawing from this fund. When markets are uncertain, it is necessary to have such products, and it's going to be good for you. Thank you.